Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Spotlight HBG. Today's guest is Elvis Solivan, the newest employee of the city of Harrisburg. He is our Director of Business Development, as well as the LERTA Administrator for the city, and we'll talk about those responsibilities. But let me say first, sir, welcome, Elvis, to the show.
Oh, Mayor, it's an honor. Thank you for having me.
Okay, great. As always, I do want to begin a little bit with the latest COVID news for the city. I was at an event this past week with the Department of Health and the Farm Show to announce a free vaccine clinic, which is currently going on there today. If you can make it to the Farm Show, you can get vaccinated for free right there in the main lobby of the Farm Show, right off Cameron Street. You can take public transportation to it, and that's going on today till 4 o'clock. They have a variety of vaccines, including the one dose available, and I would encourage everyone to get vaccinated. I want to show you the latest graph from our BioBot data, the wastewater epidemiology, which shows that, unfortunately, the virus continues to spike in the Harrisburg area, and we are far above the concentration levels of last October. So this is very serious. And one of the things we talked about at the event in the Farm Show, and one thing that you may not know, is that the vaccination rate within the city of Harrisburg is significantly lower than the vaccination rate within the county of Dauphin. In fact, within the 103rd district, which includes the city and Steelton, and this is generally how the state tabulates the percentages of vaccinated individuals, the vaccination rate is only in total just over 40%. It's actually 41.3%, which means of all the population, only 4 out of 10 are currently vaccinated. That's way too low, much lower than other counties and much lower than our own county. There is also a strong racial disparity that exists within those who've been vaccinated. African Americans are vaccinated at a rate that is sometimes 10% lower than other ethnic groups, and as a result, African Americans are only 1 in 3 within the city of Harrisburg have been fully vaccinated. We hear a lot about how there's a political polarization around the vaccine, but that does not seem to be the case in Harrisburg. What we have here is we have people that simply don't have the information that they need to be able to make the right medical decision for themselves. The vaccine is safe, it's effective, it's readily available, it's free today. If you're watching this at the Farm Show, please get vaccinated. It's important if we're going to stop that curve and we're going to level things off, and we're not going to see an increase, which could jeopardize our economy, could hurt our small businesses, could overwhelm our hospital system again as we move into the winter months and more people move indoors. So I encourage everyone to realize we're not out of the woods yet. We have to continue to be vigilant, and we have to work to get people the information that they need. I'll be doing that at every event you see me. I talk about the importance of being vaccinated. Also, if you're eligible for a booster shot, I know a lot of people in Harrisburg have already received their booster shots, and the eligibility is going to increase to people in other demographics as we move through the month. So please consider getting a booster shot. That will also help. And with that news, we're going to set that aside for today. That's the latest, and we're going to talk to Elvis. So Elvis, I think we have to start with the elephant in the room, which is the name Elvis. And I know that your parents originally came to the United States in 1959, I believe.
Correct.
From Puerto Rico,
Yes.
and you were born here.
Yes.
As a sort of first-generation continental in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm guessing Elvis was at the height of his popularity at this time.
That's correct.
But let us know how you got that name.
My brother is the person who actually named me Elvis.
Oh.
When he was in the military, he had 2 great singers, Elvis Presley and Engelbert Humperdinck.
Oh, well.
And I'm glad he didn't name me Engelbert, but he named me Elvis Presley. That's a true story.
Oh, right. Well, it's because Elvis was a sort of a military icon then as well. That's right, because of his service. Well, fascinating. Now your parents, talk a little bit about them and their influence on you growing up.
They migrated from Puerto Rico in 1959, Reading, Pennsylvania, and then they moved on to Philadelphia. Dad passed away in 2008 at the tender age of 92.
Wow.
He was in great health. He was a construction worker. Mom was a homemaker. She passed away in 1994 at the age of 85. They really instilled a lot of morals and values of me. Hard work, be on time, be respectful, and just be a good person. And that was very important.
Yeah.
Very important.
Now, so I would, by your own admission, when they came, they did not have a tremendous amount of education at that time.
They did not. My mom had second grade. My dad fourth grade. But they learned how to speak the English language here in the United States, which is extremely important because it's key to speak English. But they also taught us to make sure we knew both languages, English and Spanish. Read it and write it and speak it.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty fluent in Spanish as well too. So.
Right. And now, what was your experience in school growing up?
School, I went to Catholic school all my life. St. Peter the Apostle, Blessed John Newman in Philadelphia, Roman Catholic High School, and I attended Community College of Philadelphia as well too. So, and I decided to be involved sometimes in politics as well too.
Yeah, was that an obvious career path? We'll talk about your first job in politics here in a second. But when you were in school and you were learning, was that it was public service something that
Public
attracted
service.
you? Yeah.
I wanted to really help people, focus on the issues. How can we help them? Things of that nature. So I was really excited about that. And,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So so how does your political career begin? You mentioned you finished your schooling. You're in Philadelphia. You want to get involved. You land a pretty important job very early on in your career. And how do you make this connection?
It was interesting. Worked for U.S. Senator Arlen Specter. Was a field representative. A friend of mine said to me, I was working at a Hispanic organization called the Congreso de Latinos Unidos as an AIDS educator. And she said, I got a job for you. So what is it? And she said, working for Arlen Specter. And I said, really? So they said, we're looking for a Latino to work in his office. And I interviewed for it. And the interesting interview was he would come from 30th Street Station from Washington, the train. Okay. And he interviewed me there in the train station.
Really?
Oh, yeah. At 7:30 one night on a Friday night when he came out. Yep. And he said, well, we'll get back to you. And then 4 days later.
What's it like? So this is the late 80s, and
89 to 92.
Arlen Specter is sort of, he's a legend, but he's at the height of his powers really at this time. And it's the evening, and you're waiting in a train station for a senator to arrive by train. What is
That's
that
correct. Like? That was interesting when they said to me 7:30. You mean in the evening? Wow. I said, yeah. So they had a special assistant with me there when he came up. He sat down. We sat down, and he interviewed me, and he asked me a lot about the Latino community, and that was it. So I worked with him. I had the pleasure of working for him for 3.5 years. Very demanding, but you learn a lot from it, and I did. And I'll never forget my first day. He had a meeting at the General Services Administration, and I couldn't find the room, Mayor.
Oh,
I couldn't find the room. So anyway, I finally found it. The meeting already started. So then when the meeting was over, he went, and he said to me, Elvis, if you work for me, you never can be late to a meeting. Because if you're late, you embarrass yourself. Most importantly, you embarrass me.
Wow.
So, I was never late again.
Oh, I can imagine.
Never, no. And I learned, like I said, Mayor, I learned a lot from him.
What an incredible opportunity to learn about process and constituent services and power and how to get things done.
Legislation, absolutely.
Yeah. What were some of the things that you're most proud of that you were able to work on during that period?
I suggested to see if we can make Puerto Rico the 51st state. That was exciting. There was a lot of debate on both sides of the ledger.
At that time, that's somewhat controversial, right? It's
Very
not,
much
it's not like it is now.
Well, it still is a little bit.
Okay.
It still is a little bit. But back then,
yeah.
but back then, yes, it was.
Yeah. And you suggested that to the center.
I did.
Wow.
I recommended it. He brought it to the floor. He did. But But a lot of the senators really at that time were not on that because, especially from the southern states and all that.
Well,
But
right.
that was fine. That was
Changes-
fine. Sure.
But you moved the needle, and it's continuing to this day. And hopefully at some point it'll happen, because it should happen.
And the other one was a sensitive. I handled immigration
Mm-hmm.
for him, and I enjoyed that, assisting people regarding immigration issues,
Mm-hmm.
not just naturalization, but other issues as well too, to assist them. They really didn't know too much about it, and I educated them both in English and Spanish.
Right. Now, Specter was known for his commitment to in working in bipartisan ways.
Absolutely.
How did party politics sort of influence you at this point in time?
Learned a lot from it. It made me realize that if you all work together, things can get done very easily.
Right.
And things got done.
So what's happened to D.C. since then, Elvis? Because it doesn't seem we have that cooperation anymore.
I think it has a lot to do with a lot of egos. It really is. Not caring about the actual issue. I mean, the senators of Specter, McCain, they don't exist anymore.
I know.
Like they really don't. You got to work on both sides of the ledger, because at the end of the day, you have to help that actual person who lives there down the street.
And if I could just take this local for a minute, I know we've grown more polarized on the federal level and on the state level, but it seems to me that local government is one area where the focus should really just be about getting things done. It's not.
That's right.
I'm a Democrat. I have democratic values, but getting the trash picked up on time, or coming up with an infrastructure plan to pave the streets, is something which is clearly bipartisan and is not something which is something that requires cooperation and management skills and all these things. So
Absolutely.
Mayors, I think, unlike other levels of elected officials, have the ability to really try and just focus on doing what's right, and not get as bogged down in the party politics that tend to divide us.
Well, it seems to me that you're a very good model of that. You get things done.
Well,
Since I've been, absolutely, you've done a great job with that, and you've done a great job with all communities, and that's extremely important.
and
It really is.
it's very important, especially for a city as diverse as Harrisburg.
Absolutely.
That's one of the reasons we're so excited to have you here. But let's continue with your story. So, sometime after this, you moved to Harrisburg, and people may not know this, but I just learned that you came from Philadelphia. And it just seems natural that your first apartment would be right near the Philadelphia cheesesteak shop.
and hoagies. Joe's Cheesesteaks and Hoagies. That's right. That was my first time away from home, away from Dad.
Yeah.
And he was a little nervous about it, and but the job required for you to be most of the time in Harrisburg.
And what were you doing? It's an advocacy job.
I was
It's
a minority.
DCED. What are you doing?
I was fostering small women-owned businesses, assisting them on funding resources, access to capital, expansion of the small business across the state. And I really enjoyed that job, Mayor. I mean, it was a great job, helping people, things of that nature. I did a lot of speaking engagements, but most importantly, I helped a lot of people. We did the Youth Entrepreneurship Program, where we introduced small business to the youth.
Yeah.
We graduated over 10,000 students, and we were extremely happy about that, gratified. And a lot of them, their businesses were beauty salons, ice cream parlors, things of that nature. So it was very gratifying. It really was.
Tell us a little bit about Harrisburg at that time. So now we're, I think, mid-'90s. What was it like living and working in the downtown in Harrisburg?
It was interesting. It really was. A lot of people that I met was just working in Harrisburg one day, then at the end of the day, go back to Philadelphia. But that wouldn't have been me, because I wanted to be there and really deal with the actual people.
Sure.
Not just during the day, but in the evening as well too.
And you told me your rent back then. You want to let people know what it was, just so that they can hear?
$330 a month.
Wow. Well, some things have changed.
Fully furnished studio. It was a beautiful studio, and of course that Joe Cheesesteak and Hoagies right in that apartment.
So you're out there advocating for small business, minority-owned business. Now you are the director of business development in the city of Harrisburg. So how can you take those experiences and apply them to your new job?
I think that today the businesses need more technical assistance, education on how to obtain funding. There's a lot of grants and loans that they can take advantage of. And like I said in my presentation at the press conference, I'm gonna do my best, and I will visit every small business to make sure that they know that Elvis Sullivan is there to help them.
Yeah, and that the COVID sort of exposed the need for technical support and assistance too for small business in a lot of ways. There was a lot of money; it became available. Sometimes the red tape was very difficult. It was hard for people to access the funds that were there, and there's a lot that we can learn from that experience to make sure that that everybody, all businesses, are competitive. They're in the loop. They understand the resources that are there. I'm excited about that for you. As we move forward in time, you work with an organization called the Lighthouse in Philadelphia. Tell me about the Lighthouse.
I became a board member, treasurer of the organization. Lighthouse is a nonprofit organization that focuses on social services, daycare, economic development, housing, adult education, things of that nature. And then I became the first Latino president in a 100-year history, which I was very proud.
Yeah.
And there were some people that kind of criticized me because they feel it should have been just a Latino organization. No, it's an organization for everyone.
Yeah.
Anybody can come in and provide and get services.
Yeah, named one of the most influential Latinos in Philadelphia and winning governor's awards and all sorts of things. What are your observations of how the Latino community in Philadelphia differs from or is similar to the community that you found here in Harrisburg?
I think that here in Harrisburg, they need to know who to turn to and who to go to regarding a lot of the services. And in the business aspect, I think access to capital is very important. They may not know who to turn to, who to ask, but I'm here for them.
Good.
And I'll take care.
Yeah, and that's been my experience as well. That we have programs. We have programs like the LERTA, which you administer, which is a tax abatement program.
Yeah.
But you need to apply for it. You need to know it exists.
Right.
And part of our responsibility is making sure that everybody knows about it. They know how to apply for it. They know how to take advantage of it. And that's something that I think can be done through outreach, which you're committed to doing.
Absolutely.
So that's not all. I mean, it just keeps going and going. You also let's talk about your experience working with HUD. And I think you work with HUD in a couple different levels at a couple different times in your career. Talk about how you get drawn back into the federal level.
2001, 2008, I was appointed special assistant to the regional director at HUD. And there we would cover Pennsylvania, Delaware, West Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. So I traveled the entire state to listen to a lot of the community organizations' concerns, focusing on housing options, economic development, things of that nature. At the same time, I also taught Spanish at HUD.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. We used to get quite a few customers that would call in Spanish. So I suggested to the regional administrator, let's do maybe a 1 hour a week course on Spanish, just the basic. And we had quite a few employees there attend and things of that nature. I really enjoyed. I did that for 6 months.
Wow.
It was very effective because it was helpful for them.
Sure,
as well.
of course.
Absolutely. So that was good. We worked on a lot of projects. We delegated over $300 million to community organizations on housing and also economic development. So we were happy about that.
Yeah. And HUD works on this regional approach. You sort of described how.
That's correct.
How does Harrisburg and how does Pennsylvania fit within the greater region?
I think it fits very well. They receive they're delegated a lot of monies through Department of Community and Economic Development, and also through the city. And usually, which was a pretty good program, the home program, that focuses on housing and things of that nature. So it really fits in very well.
So if you're watching at home and you're not familiar with HUD and some of these terms, the city receives direct appropriations from HUD. They receive community development block grant funding. They receive home funds like you've just described. They receive emergency solutions funding. We can use them we use them to tackle homelessness, affordable housing, and community development. And overseeing that from a regional perspective, especially with issues like affordable housing, what are some of the things that you've seen, work for people in Pennsylvania, be very successful in terms of developing affordable housing. Last year, in context, we passed some new affordable housing legislation. We're trying to use our home dollars in ways that leverage other dollars and support. But we have a housing crisis in Harrisburg. We need more housing of all type, but we certainly need affordable housing. So give us your perspective on that.
Well, regarding the affordable housing, we really focus on eventually to have home ownership, and that's extremely important. Yes, you can rent, but we try to assist them as much as we can. But the goal is to go from affordable housing to actual home ownership, and that's so important. I mean, there's nothing that you're gratified. Hey, I own my own home. Yeah, some people are unable to do that sometimes. And they live in public housing, but we would love them to really think about home ownership. But that's extremely important. So, and my experience is we've had quite a few homeowners, a lot of them, that are really happy about that, and they've been through some situations. But finally, we try to assist them through the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. It's a good product in the state.
Right here in Harrisburg.
Right here in Harrisburg. So, but as a matter of fact, not only with business and with me, I mean, if there's anything I can help them with housing on that aspect or a contact, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, and I think we have a lot of affordable housing projects in the pipeline. We have a need for more. We have a new ordinance which is trying to incentivize that among developers. This is a moment to really sort of bring all that together and all those resources together and help focus on improving opportunities for our residents. And you know, your experience is really tremendous. In addition to all this work within government, you've also served for organizations like the United Way. And how has that service helped define you and who you are?
I was a business development executive, where we raised monies through nonprofit organizations to assist them on their services. We raised over $400,000 at one point. I had a staff of volunteers that would go out and make presentations and things of that nature in both languages, English and Spanish. Now, we also had two people that spoke Asian and Russian, Chinese. So it was really interesting. So we were very gratified about that.
Yeah.
And I was there for about 1.5 years, 2 years.
All right. So I guess if people are watching this and they're hearing about this biography, and I have to say, when I reviewed your resume for the first time and I'm looking at this and I see all the things you can bring to bear to the city, I guess the question is, why Harrisburg and why now at this time in your life? I know it made an impact on you when you were younger, back in the 90s when you were here. But why choose a position like Director of Business Development here in the capital of Pennsylvania?
Because I think there's so many opportunities that these businesses can take advantage of, and I can help them with that. Like I mentioned, access to capital, other resources, expansion of their business if they're interested, and it would be a economic environment here in Harrisburg.
So when we had our press conference and announced you as our latest employee, you said you were committed to visiting and meeting with every single business in the city of Harrisburg, which is, that's a daunting task. That's a lot.
That's right.
Walk through how people watching this can, set up an appointment to talk to you or to bring you out and show you their business. And what's the best way for you to get to know them?
Well, they can call me.
Okay.
717-255-7268. My email address is also esolivan@harrisburgpa.gov.
Okay. We'll put those up on the screen as well
Absolutely.
so people can see them. And what are some of the things that you are currently working on? Some things that really excite you here in the new position? Do you have meetings lined up with pertinent organizations? Do you have certain initiatives that you think will really define your first 30 days here?
I think that one of the big ones would be the Small Business Administration. They have what we call small business development centers. Their centers, and the one here in Harrisburg is through Kutztown University.
Yes.
And they really focus on assisting business startups and also existing businesses on trying to help them with their business plan,
Right.
and probably access to financial assistance as well too. So that's exciting as well. We're going to have a job fair on October 29th
Okay.
at our government building.
Good.
Where we're going to get together and see what vendors are available, so they can probably have forward some job possibilities as well too. So we're excited. I'm working on those 2 projects right now as well.
Oh, that's great. Yes.
Yeah.
We've had Small Business Administration has helped so many small businesses through this COVID pandemic, but also with those local resources that you've talked about, the city. It's constantly it's constantly a responsibility to try and make sure that those resources reach the businesses that need them. There's so much opportunity for business growth in the city of Harrisburg. It really is an exciting time, and we're trying to rebuild our economic development department. You are filling the shoes of a gentleman named Jamal Jones, who did very good work for the city for a number of years, and Otto Banks is coming in as your supervisor in economic development. And I think it's appropriate to give him some credit for recruiting you. Tell us about your history with Otto Banks. How did you meet, and how did you come to hear about this opportunity in Harrisburg?
Otto was the Assistant Deputy Secretary of Community Planning and Development during the Bush administration, and we worked together on quite a few projects, and we would still kept connecting with each other, and he's done a lot of great things. He really has, and of course you were recruited him as well too, sure. And then he recruited me. He asked me, was I interested? And I said, sure, I'll be happy to. Yeah. Absolutely. But we have an excellent relationship. He's a great boss. He really is. And
he's come with all sorts of energy and vigor. And one of the things we have to figure out is how we can further expand and fund the resources of the department as we move forward. So it's good to have a full team. Right now it's just the 2 of you, but we can expand as we move forward.
Absolutely.
I wonder if people are watching this, if they're interested in some other fun facts about you. I've got all these great biographical details, and one thing which impressed me is you have a passion. You have a passion for music. Maybe that was inspired by your parents as well, and also you're a great cook. Let's talk about those things. What type of music do you like, and what do you cook when you're? I like
60s, 70s, Tony Bennett, Johnny Mathis, Michael Jackson. Okay. And I have to say, everybody thinks he's a great singer, and he is, but I think he's one of the best dancers that I ever saw. Yeah. Cooking, seafood lasagna is my favorite. That is a mozzarella with scallops, shrimp, and crab meat. I enjoy that. I also can cook a pretty good roast pork as well too. Con chorizos.
And you learned to cook. I just found this out, but you learned to cook here in Harrisburg in that apartment, right?
Correct.
Was that your first kitchen?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. My sister, I was eating out a lot, and I decided, well, you know what? I got to start learning how to cook myself. So I called my sister. I said, you got to teach me to do a couple things, and we did. And here we go. So I'm very proud of that as well too.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I'm glad. I think people will find you very personable. You're also bilingual, easy to speak to in multiple languages, as well as, very approachable, and I think that's exciting. We've got the job fair coming up. We've got a number of announcements. You'll be out and about in the community. I hope everybody will get to know you and
looking forward to it.
And take the time to speak to you and share their thoughts about the future of Harrisburg.
Very much so.
Elvis Solivan, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing your expertise with the rest of us here in the city of Harrisburg.
Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Bien. All right, that's it for Spotlight this week. We will be back next week and every week right here on Facebook Live at noon. Tune in next week to hear the biography of another amazing individual working right here for the city of Harrisburg.